You're listening to the Normal Network, where the time is 420, 24/7, 365. Live from Portland, Oregon, it's time for A Different View, a lively women's roundtable discussion on marijuana issues, brought to you in part by the Normal Women's Alliance, with Portland Dispensary's examiner Jennifer Alexander, Alternative Medical Choices founder Iva Cunningham, and Moms for Marijuana founder Sarah Frank. Now, here's A Different View.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to A Different View. Thanks for joining us. It's Monday night. It's 8 p.m. You want to catch us on our replays later. We replay Tuesday nights at 2 a.m., Friday at 8 a.m., Wednesday at 2 a.m. and Saturday at 4 p.m. You're listening to A Different View, again, with Jennifer Alexander, Sarah Frank, and I'm Iva Cunningham. We're going to have a great show. We have Vivian McPeak, correct? And Normal Women's Alliance guest, Tim Blake. And we're going to be talking about the global marches that are going on this weekend and next weekend. Or no, just this weekend.
This weekend,
just this
May
weekend.
5th. Cinco de Mayo,
oh, that's
worldwide.
Right. Yay. Anyway, and then we'll be talking to Vivian McPeak later on. I'm looking forward to that. Get a little inspiration from Vivian McPeak. For those of you that don't know who he is, he is the Seattle Hempfest.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the two are one of the same. But for those of you who don't know who Vivian McPeak is or have never been, he is an incredible activist, an incredible human being, and whenever I need a little inspiration, I kind of check out his Facebook. He doesn't know this yet, but because he's always got a little piece of some advice to give us, and I'm hoping that he can give us a little bit of advice tonight. But I'm looking forward to tonight. And you've got some good stuff to talk about too, haven't you, Jennifer?
A few things. I was going to talk a little bit about the public officials in Oregon here back when Measure 74 was on the ballot. They were campaigning in violation of election law against the measure, and so they were charged $75 each, and there's two of them down in Medford that are still fighting against the $75 fine. And then I want to talk a little bit about how to get involved in politics in your local area. There's a really easy way to get in that conversation.
By taking small steps.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation because there's things I always learn from that. And you understand that political process much better than I do. But
I'm still learning, too. There's so much to learn, but there's some good ways to get involved, so we'll talk a little bit about that, too.
Cool. And, Sarah, you've had some exciting news this week, haven't you? I don't know, but I can't hear you.
You can hear me now. Yeah, we got a Portugal chapter that opened.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's
Portugal.
our 5th country chapter of
Wow.
Moms for Marijuana, so we're pretty excited, and we got a couple more throughout the states. And
I've been watching kind of some of the stuff on the different Moms for Marijuana Facebooks. There's big things happening. There's a lot of women coming out and saying, yep, it's time to talk. Time to have this conversation. Yeah. It's well overdue. Well, all right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back. And you're listening to A Different View. Thanks for joining us.
Liquor is quicker, but if you drink too much booze, you know you bound to get sicker than a person.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 20s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stop arresting law-abiding citizens because they prefer marijuana over alcohol. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. We're unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people each year simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They're average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
You're listening to A Different View. Welcome back. So this weekend we have one of the annual events that's really exciting to me, nationwide and worldwide now. I don't know how long it's been happening worldwide, but I know last year there were a few different countries participating. This year, 23 nations currently participating in the Global Cannabis March.
World wants it.
151 cities, it says on here. I saw another number that gave, 738 different cities that have signed up from 64 different nations since
what that
1999.
means is chances are there's a march somewhere near you.
Absolutely. And so we do have a website. It's a wiki that I think Russ is going to throw up for us in a second here. And it shows every country that's currently listed with every city and the information that you need to know so that you can go participate. But I feel like if you don't have a march scheduled in your area,
make one.
Be the march. Go out there with your signs.
I know. Russ and I have marched 3 people. It's all it was, standing outside the city hall in Boise, Idaho. I've told you that story many times, Sarah.
Yeah.
And we were just, the 3 of us, we just marched in a circle. I was like, you know what? It's a step.
Absolutely. And we need more people coming out, especially this year. We've got multiple states looking at legalization. We've got conversations happening nationwide. I don't know if you saw the Jimmy Kimmel thing Russ posted.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was,
you have that clip?
That was terrific.
That was great. I love that he called him out. He did it delicately, I think, and tastefully. But I think
as tasteful as Jimmy Kimmel,
but you know exactly.
can be.
But you know he could have done a lot worse.
Yeah,
but he didn't, and I think he basically said, "Hey, pay attention."
And I like that he pointed out that I forget how he used the joke. It was a pun, a play on words, but something about him being a one-term president. That was also very good.
The joke was, there's a term for guys like President Obama. I mean, maybe not 2 terms, but there is a term.
Right, there you go. It was good. He called him out multiple different ways. Aside from the very direct ways that he called him out for marijuana, he called him out in indirect ways multiple times. And that's what we need to do. Get our politicians to know we do care about this issue.
Well, and
did you guys want this clip? I can play the clip.
Yeah, if you'd like to play the clip real quick, that'd be great.
You guys keep talking and I'll get it set up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way we need to do it, is to keep addressing those people that once were smokers. Because those are the people that make laws and put people in prison. We should, call them on their hypocrisy. Even if they've tried it once, and what happened to you? Nothing. So why do you feel compelled to put people in prison today?
Right. Exactly. Well, and the argument is that they're not putting people in prison; they're just destroying their lives. That makes it okay.
Yeah, that's much better. They're going to sit and think about it as they sit in a, dark parking lot.
Looks like we might be just about ready.
Getting close. Keep
Getting
talking.
close. Okay. So, but let's go back to this Global Cannabis March here locally. We're in Portland, Oregon. So there is a march that starts at Pioneer Courthouse Square at noon. I'm going. Are you ladies going to be there?
I work that day. I'm going to try, but I work that day.
Yeah. Well, ditch work. Come on now. The stoner thing to do. No, I'm just kidding. You're the owner. It doesn't really work that way.
I don't get to take a day off.
But yeah, no, there's last year we had nearly 1,000 people out there, and it was a little disappointing. Or no, the year before last it was nearly 1,000. I think last year it was even smaller. It was really disappointing. I think people have become complacent, and this year is not the year to be complacent. Get out there, show people that you support this.
Well, the bigger the crowd, the more people pay attention.
Yeah.
It's like,
here's that Jimmy Kimmel video for you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, let's go ahead with that.
I do have one real question for you, Mr. President. What's with the marijuana crackdown? I mean, seriously, what is the concern? We will deplete the nation's Funyun supply? Pot smokers vote too, sometimes a week after the election, but they vote. Let's take a quick poll. I would like everyone in this room to raise your hand if you've never smoked pot.
4 people.
Classic, yeah, just a handful of hands.
Look at Britt Hume. He's high right now.
They're even ashamed to even say that they don't. Seriously.
He's on his 4th almond macaroon. Mr. President, I hope you don't think I'm out of line here, but marijuana is something that real people care about, and the fact that you believe Speaker Boehner, when he tells you he still has control of his party, leads me to believe that you must be smoking some crazy great weed yourself. Woody Harrelson just woke up.
There you go.
That's great. And like I said, he called him out multiple other different, less direct ways that were...
I like that he said, this is an issue real people care about. And I was like, thank you. Thank you. Because people don't think of us as real people. They tend to put us in a little a subculture, if you will. Those stoners, those
in
potheads.
2009, he did a town hall on something or other. I think it was YouTube.
Jimmy Kimmel?
No, President Obama.
Oh, okay.
And the number one question time after time after time is about ending marijuana prohibition. And when he first addressed it, he said so many people wanted to know this, so we feel we have to address it. And no, we don't think that's the answer. But I don't know what that says about our online audience.
I remember that, yeah.
And he laughed at us. And now, it's great to see people like that stepping out and saying real
well,
people
he's
care
kind of put
about
himself
this.
in a pickle, if you will, because he used a lot of us to get his vote.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us in this community were like, yeah, this guy's going to pay attention. He used cannabis himself. He's familiar with it. He knows the culture. Sure, he doesn't do it now, but he
or
did,
so he says.
Right, but he did use us. He did use us for political gain. Now, him coming out and saying, this time I'm going to do it. We're going to hope, vote for change, and this time we're not going to buy as BS at all.
I find it funny that a lot of people actually think that President Obama will legalize marijuana if given a second term. No, he won't. No, he won't. He's not even pretending that he's going to do that at this point.
Well, I
at
read
this
an
point, he thinks
article
it's funny.
recently where they were talking about Eric Holder and how he said that it would just take President Obama to removing it from a Schedule I drug, and he said, yeah, that's right, that's what it'll take, but yet he still doesn't do it. And we want to know what my biggest question is every time we have these town halls and every time we have this as the number one question, and every time they say no, they don't tell us why not. So let's get them to tell us why not. Let's, if they have a suitable explanation for why they don't want to legalize cannabis, then they should be able to tell us that.
I think there's too much money in keeping it illegal.
Well, we know why.
Well, I know, but I mean,
we just want to hear it from them.
I want to hear it from his lips,
right.
but I mean, we know why. But I mean, I don't see him saying, well, there's just too much money to be gained from keeping it illegal. I don't see that happening.
So what excuse is he going to give us? And we're tired of those excuses.
Well, and we know the major excuse that they give us, smoked marijuana is not medicine. And we're like, well, we're not talking about medicine in this particular
case. We're talking about personal use. We're talking about, removing criminal penalties, period.
Right. And you guys have been arguing the same tired arguments that have already been debunked, and more and more people are learning that they've already been debunked, that these are no longer valid arguments.
Well, I think as more and more people learn about the different modalities of using cannabis as medicine, and those people who will never qualify for any medical marijuana program who could really benefit from it are going, hey, wait a minute, what about me? Mm-hmm. What about me? I'm not sick enough?
Right.
I mean, and there's nothing worse than to have to turn somebody down that will benefit. They will absolutely 100% benefit.
Right.
But you can't give them a recommendation because they don't qualify for the program. So, it's that conscious decision to not, or not conscious decision, but it's that decision to not be able to provide that service to somebody that will be benefited. But I struggle all the time with that. I have to turn people down all the time. I have to tell them that I'm sorry, this program is not for you, and that's hard. I mean, marijuana should be for everybody, not just for a few people. It should be for everyone.
Right.
Well, and I think that we open up that argument when we start talking about recreational use. The reality is that we're talking about whether or not it's okay for the government to tell me what I can do in my free time as an adult. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand there's arguments against the children and there's, public safety concerns, but let's address those specific areas and not the broader choice.
Well,
and that's the problem.
Even the what about the children argument is BS in my view, because we have so many things on our shelves right now that kids get into. What about the poisons underneath their cupboards? What was it? One of the videos I saw from Moms for Marijuana, and she was talking about the pretty colored different tablets that she has in her medicine.
They think are Skittles.
That they think are Skittles. Yeah, exactly. And then, and I've heard people say, well, what about the suckers? Those suckers are catering to kids. I go, well, we have fentanyl suckers, and we have, vitamin,
It's funny how disillusioned people get when they look at marijuana, forgetting what the real medical world looks like.
Where do you think those things came from? Where do we think we got those ideas?
Right.
I mean, it's from that. Tinctures are nothing new. Tinctures are from, years ago. Yeah. That's what they use cannabis for. I mean, cough syrup is alcohol, and it's going to hurt children. And why can't we have, a common sense conversation about really what is, saving our children from poisons or overdosing and drugs.
Well, and I was going to say, just as we're going to kind of wrap this up and move along into the next segment, the issue with the public officials and the fine that they were given for the election campaign.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of going back to President Obama and kind of holding all of our politicians' feet to the fire. These people are fighting against a $75 election fine for something that they blatantly did. Ray Myers, who's one of the ones that was found guilty from Southern Oregon, said it was worth it. The $75 was worth it. And one of the other guys, I think it was Tim George, which is the chief of Medford, said that for $75 at least he got to speak his mind. And they're all... It was worth it to them, I think that we need to show them that it's not worth it. It may have only cost you $75, but it better cost you your office too.
Right.
There are enough
Meanwhile,
of us.
Meanwhile, Robert Wolf gets fined $65,000. That's ridiculous.
But yeah, so we need to hold these politicians accountable. We need to confront them on these issues like Jimmy Kimmel did so well with Obama.
I think he did brilliantly. I really do.
And when they're coming out like Holton is right now with our attorney general race, or like these guys with these election fines, we need to challenge them on it and say, no, we don't accept this.
To me, that is political bullying. It's like, oh, I see. So you find the people that are struggling to get something on the ballot, and you put just a tiny little slap on the hand for those, that you support. I mean, it just seems fishy to me.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to have Vivian McPeak from the Seattle Hempfest here to talk with us. You're listening to A Different View. We'll be right back.
Alternative Medical Choices offers healthcare the way it should be. Easy to access, patient-centered, team-based, and quality-focused. We offer a variety of natural, affordable healthcare treatment options like primary care, group acupuncture, massage, and assistance with OMP registration. As a patient, you will have a team of experts working with you to make you the best you can be. Call Alternative Medical Choices at 503-288-5579 or check us out on the web at altmedchoices.com.
The matins down. The reason why they walk around with a frown, 'cause we walk upon this earth without a crown.
Welcome back. You're listening to A Different View. I was over here coughing, not realizing your microphone is on. So we have Vivian McPeak with us. Vivian McPeak is the founder and pretty much the man behind the Seattle Hempfest, which is 21 years in. 20-year anniversary was last year, or 22. Vivian, are you there?
I am, Iva. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being on the show, Vivian.
My pleasure.
I've been going to Seattle Hempfest for, 7 years now? And I'm always impressed with the crowd that gathers there. Now, from the volunteers to the guests to the crowd, I've never seen any violence. Your volunteers are amazing. They what they pull together every year, what you guys manage to do is stupefying. I mean, I'm always impressed at what you manage to do every year. And there's always such a positive vibe, and I credit a lot of that to you, because to me, I see you as this. You're kind of this guru of peace, and right now, I think in the marijuana community, there's a lot of different conflicts going on, and whenever I need to get away from that and kind of be inspired, I kind of look to see what Vivian says, and with all the stuff that's going on, the different initiatives, it's invariably you're going to have some division. But how do you handle that? Because I know that you have friends on both sides. How do you cope with that? And what's your advice to us on how to, keep the lines of communication open and still work together, but keep the hostility out of it?
Well, Iva, thank you so much for your kind words. Hempfest we got a great group of folks, and it's a really important cause. And we've had 20 years to get it down. And so, we're the best pot rally, but we want to make sure we're the biggest pot rally. But now we're working really hard right now trying to be the best. There's a lot of vision in the movement, and it's kind of a good sign in a weird way. There was this great, kind of, I keep saying the same words, it's kind of kumbaya unity in the national and the regional movements for many, many years, and not because we didn't all disagree on the subtle nuts and bolts of how things are going to be implemented, with legalization, but really because it seemed so far off and so distant that it just wasn't even relevant at the time. Mm-hmm. Now we're actually slugging it out in many regions, many states, many municipalities. We are really working on seeing how legalization can happen. And that has people kind of really getting divided and a lot of passion, a lot of sweat equity, 20, 30, 40 years some people have been putting into this movement. And so obviously we're all very passionate about how it's going to happen and what we think is fair and right and just, and how the money should be divided, how it should be taxed or not taxed, right. Who should be selling it, should we grow at home, should we be able to drive.
Yeah, the details
all
of
details.
It. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Don't bore me with details. Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it already. Yeah,
and there's people that have been making a living. It's been a cottage industry for many, many people, especially people on the fringes, and a lot of disabled people and a lot of people that are marginalized for whatever reason in our society and in the dark shadows have been getting by and not being on welfare, not being and here we are today.
Right.
And it is challenging, but we're all cut from the same cloth. We all want the same things. We're all fighting the same fight. Mm-hmm. I think we really need to remember that as Americans, especially as Americans.
Right.
We really need to embrace the respect for diversity of opinion, and we need to be able to debate these things as a community and not attack each other, not question people's motives.
Right, I agree with
make
that.
Accusations and all the things that some people tend to do. And, it's not like we have great leadership from the politicians and from the news media.
No,
not at all.
Well, and I think where I get frustrated is, and I'm not saying I'm not guilty of this myself, is the painting with the broad brush. Putting everybody in the same bucket, and we've had that happen to us from a lot of different avenues. All those stoners, all those hippies, quick to vilify us. But what I'm afraid of is, and I hope, I try to encourage people to look beyond just what they see, and the stories are much more in depth than what they see, and not to paint with that broad brush because it only creates harm. And it's destructive, and it doesn't move us forward. It's healthy to have some conflict and have some debate, and I encourage people to do that. But the manner sometimes is a bit shocking, and I want us to have a little bit of conflict because it's what keeps us from driving off the cliff.
Sure, and that's how we figure it out too.
Right.
And there is no one person who's got all the ideas.
Right.
We have to forge through it as a community, and that's why we need to be able to, Prop 19, there's some people in California who probably never talk to each other again.
Yeah.
But one time we're strong allies and friends and comrades, and that's not worth it. Frankly, I hate to say it, it's not worth it.
Right.
Our communities are just as important as anything else, just as important as reform, frankly.
Well, we need
because
to
that's who we're trying to defend is our communities.
Right, and we need to be we need to be whole at the end of that.
Divide and conquer. That's the oldest thing in the world. And if we divide ourselves, then we're doing ourselves in.
Right, and
that's just crazy.
We don't need any help from our opponents.
Our theme at Hempfest this year is building bridges.
Nice.
And there's a new footbridge, a pedestrian footbridge that the city has built, or the county has built, and that's coming right into the middle of Hempfest. It's really cool, right by the main stage area. And so, obviously our theme kind of represents that. But it also alludes to the divisions in our own Pacific Northwest community that have been rippling outward over the kind of things that we're talking about. And we really hopefully can be just like some kind of a reminder. Give a reminder to folks that, hey, let's remember it's the kind bud. Let's try to be kind.
That's right.
And let's remember our enemy's prohibition. It certainly is not each other.
Right. Hey, Vivian, this is Jennifer. I was wondering, being up in Washington, I know that, 502 is one of those newer points of contention. How are you proceeding? I know that you had some concerns with this initiative. How are you proceeding at this point, within the community to try to be building those bridges while dealing with this point of contention? I mean, it's a strong point, and it is one that's concerning, obviously, to a lot of people. So,
absolutely. Well, I have to tell you that I do have some issues, some concerns, but I'm saying this in complete honesty. I really see both sides of it. I think that both sides of this particular issue have very valid and cogent points of view, and that there is no right way, and we don't know and it's all conjecture on both sides. There's a lot of statements made, a lot of accusations made, but really a lot of promises made even. Yeah. But really, we don't know how things are going to play out, and there's no bad guy in this. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to legalize. I mean, I just read a thing today where John McKay, former federal prosecutor, is talking about the absurdity of in the news today about the absurdity of marijuana being classified in the same as PCP.
And this is the same prosecutor that locked up Mark Emery, right? I'm thinking of the right guy.
That's right.
Yes.
The same exact prosecutor. And it's like, that's progress.
It is.
We're making progress. Right. And there's a lot of people opposed to I-502 who are going to be attacking him. And see what's happening here? We're attacking the guy who's turned on our side because we don't like the particular nuances of how it's happening. And people that live in Washington State have a right. They have a right to not like the way something that they're going to live under is going to happen. Personally, I've kind of gotten a scapegoat out of this whole controversy, which was actually stinging me pretty hard about a month or two ago, publicly. I was being kind of vilified and attacked for my position, but Hempfest, the board of directors of Hempfest, voted to take a neutral position on I-502 because it was splitting our organization. And we polled the Hempfest organization, and we found that people were split 50-50 on it, the people that made up their minds, and there were a lot of people that hadn't. But there were some people quitting the organization over my public position.
Right.
And so, the Hempfest board voted because we are the big tent event where all ideas come, we have to host everybody with all these different opinions and get them out to the public. We think that we can do the best job as a neutral kind of a Switzerland in this whole thing. And it's kind of selfishly that kind of got me out of because as the primary spokesperson of Hempfest, I really have to respect that and tone down my advocacy.
Well, I think it's a positive example, though. I think a lot of people are quick to make an opinion instead of just kind of waiting and thinking out the particulars of any type of initiative. And I think that's a good example. So what, we support legalization. How that method happens, we may not always agree with the details, but it's progress moving forward.
Communities across the country are going to be working out different models.
Right.
And we're going to see over time, what's going to, and people are going to vilify us for taking a neutral position. Even you can't win in these kind of things because people are so passionate. I think it's part of the email. It's part of like the internet. A mentality. If we were all facing each other all the time, people would be a lot more civil.
It's a lot less to attack each other.
Well, and I was going to say
the comment sections of the news articles. Gosh,
don't read the comments.
To the gutter immediately.
Yeah, I know.
No, I was going to say the one thing for me. This is Jennifer again. The one thing for me that stands out is that I think that being involved in this community, we quickly learn to actually read the bills. And what I've learned is that 90% of voters don't. They only hear the talking points. They only hear the headlines. And I'm personally...
And you know what? 90% of the politicians don't either.
You're right.
You're right. Yeah, exactly.
And so what I've been trying to promote personally is for people to support this simply because we want that loud and clear headline that says Washington legalized. We can continue to argue those details, and I think we very much should, because I think there's many details in there that I have issue with, even some of the ones that aren't really addressed very much, like the no home grows. That one's probably more concerning to me, than the DUI provisions for me personally.
Well, I mean, I mean, I don't think many of us thought of legalization as no home grows.
Right.
That's not legalization.
But I think ultimately there's somebody sitting in Arkansas or Texas that's not even considering any of this. You know what I mean? When they see that headline that Washington legalized, that's going to affect their politicians, who are also, by the way, not reading those bills. and they can, we can continue to change this conversation nationwide.
And it'll throw down the gauntlet to the federal government and put a little bit more pressure on them. And nobody really knows how they're going to respond. And it's all strategy, and people don't agree on strategy, and nobody knows until you try strategies. And so, I'm just trying to remind everybody, look, these people, they're not our enemy. They're good people. They're good, decent. They're not, in some office trying to conspire how to screw all the marijuana patients, the medical patients in the state. It's not how it's working at all.
And you learn
just
quickly.
Need to remember that and be civil and be supportive of our community.
Exactly. I was going to say you learn quickly in this community that there's as many opinions as there are people involved. Nobody agrees on everything. So we're going to have to work through these conversations in a civil manner, keeping community in mind.
Well, Vivian, can you really quick, we're going to have to close up. Thank you again so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Where can people find out more about the next Seattle Hempfest 2012?
They can go to our website at hempfest.org, and they can check in 365 days a year. Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer and Iva. You guys have a great one.
All right, you too. Thanks, Vivian.
Thanks, Vivian.
Have a great night. We'll be right back. You're listening to A Different View.
Get to where I'm going and get back the best way that I can. I'm a stone traveler.
Have you ever wondered how to make the best tasting and most potent pot brownies possible? Do you consistently seek out recipes that will elevate your marijuana-infused cuisine to the highest levels imaginable? Then it's time to pick up a copy of the official High Times Cannabis Cookbook, published by the world's most trusted name when it comes to getting stoned. Packed tight with more than 50 recipes for irie appetizers, munchy meals, high holidays, stoner sweets, and cannabis cocktails, along with expert advice that demystifies the experience of infusing marijuana into butter, alcohol, and various oils. This book will get you cooking with grass in no time, with special treats inspired by Willie Nelson, Snoop Dogg, and Cheech and Chong, plus all the info you need to stay safe when making and consuming edibles. You will truly learn how to bake a ganja cake and eat it too. So look for the official High Times Cannabis Cookbook wherever finer books.
Come down from the clouds, put my feet on the ground, step out of this dream. Home seems so far away from where I am today, and I don't care what people say, I'm just living day to day.
On A Different View is brought to you by the Normal Women's Alliance, a nonpartisan coalition of socially and geographically diverse women who believe that marijuana prohibition is a self-destructive and hypocritical policy that undermines the American family. They bring a contemporary approach to the policy debate and are proudly representing the interests of modern mainstream women who believe in legalizing marijuana.
Welcome back. You're listening to A Different View. Today's Normal Women's Alliance sponsored guest is Mr. Tim Blake. You are the founder of the Emerald Cup. You want to tell us a little bit about the Emerald Cup?
Well, about 8 years ago, we were coming into the fall harvest, and a bunch of us up here in the Mendocino Mountains were looking back and thinking, boy, we don't get to celebrate the annual fall harvest like other agriculture industry does. The apple crops and the pear and the wine industry and stuff, and we thought, well, we should put on a friendly competition, and so we did just that. We did it under the guise of a couple birthday parties, and most people came in mass, and the winners didn't accept their awards. In fact, it was an 86-year-old man that won the first year. It was an amazing story in itself. All these young hotshots thought they'd win, and one of these guys had given his father, a lifelong farmer, not even a cannabis person,
That's
for
great.
the seed, and he turned it in, and it turned out that we were going to give him the award, and actually I still have that cup because he said I'm going to be dead in a couple of years. He was 86 years old. And he said, "You might as well keep it."
That's.
So that was there's a lot of stories in the cup surrounding things like that. But so that was the first year. We had like 23 entries, and it peaked. We had almost 150 2 years ago.
Wow.
Last year we almost canceled it because of the federal crackdown, but went ahead with it at the last minute and still ended up with 110 entries.
Wow.
So it's a month-long process where we test and sample each product. It's not a day event. Actually, the judges take a whole month with all the different products.
I can't imagine trying to smoke all those samples in one day.
Well, you can't. They can do like 4 a day. And that
I can't even imagine trying. I just.
Well, you know, we have a lot of people that want to be judges, and after 1 year, most of them can't handle it for the second year.
It's a lot more work than you'd think.
Well, when you're thinking about just relaxing and taking hitting the effects of cannabis, but then having to think about every aspect of it, the smell, the look, the taste, the effect, and then grade that and know that you've got some serious results that have to be put in, it's a little daunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to do it wasn't a competition. It was more of just trying a few samples and having to grade them. And there were only like 6, and it was just too much for me. I'm like, this is too much work. I just want to smoke it.
I know that OCTA, every year, the Oregon Cannabis Tax, what is it? Not OCTA, it's Oregon Cannabis, what is it? Medical Cannabis Awards. Sorry, it's been a while. That they have, 26 strains, I think it is, 26 different strains. And every year the judges always sell out, but it's always different judges. Because I think for the same reason, they're like, holy cow, 26 strains, I have to figure out what each one does every day. I have to think after I smoke it. It's always a bit of a challenge.
We found that we have 7 judges. A lot of times we have a guest judge. Tony Serra was that last year. And in fact, Tony Serra, Kendra Miller's partner, he had, I believe, 7 of the 10 top 10. He wasn't like with us, all the judges all the way through, but he actually had better numbers to the actual results than anyone else. But we found that we have 3 or 4 judges that have stayed with us all the way through.
Really?
And they're just really, they've got it down. They're hardcore. They really know what they're doing. And then we add in some new people each year just to get a nice blend. But the core team is always there and kind of guides it.
So tell us a little bit about what sort of things you guys use to judge. Like what are I see trichome crystals, vibrancy, taste.
Well, we've got a scoring system of 50 points. And so each 10 points for looks, smell, and taste. And then there's a 10-point for effect, which you double the score. So that the effect the weight does go to the effect, although each of the other ones have their share. So it ends up being really fair system. Now we've added on a CBD contest, and we had a number of other types of strains, best morning bud and things like that. But for the main contest, that 50-point system has evolved and works very well, and the judges work together on that, and then they get together and take all the scores, add those up, and whittle that down to a top 20, and then from there bring that down to a top 10 and the top 3.
So now, do you take the samples that are donated for the competition? Do they get tested by a lab, or?
Oh yeah, we send everything off. We send everything off to SC Labs in Santa Cruz. They do a great job, and they come back with all the results for us. So we've got that all straight. It's strictly an outdoor contest. It's a medicinal contest, and we require that people are doing it organically. Although that's hard to prove. I think we have a very good ratio of people that are doing that, but I'm sure there's somebody that's not here and there. But then you can taste it and tell.
Right, sure.
So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in activism or your thoughts on activism. Just like we were just talking with Vivian McPeak from the Seattle Hempfest and discussing about the importance of community and all of that. You sound like you've been in this movement for a while as well. So what's your perspective on these things and how we proceed as a community?
Well, as we're doing this Cannabis Cup, about 6 years ago, a guy named Les Crane, who's a cannabis minister. He came to me and asked me if I would help sponsor a United Cannabis Ministry convention, kind of, and we'd all come together and form a union. And I thought it would be, I said yes, of course. It was Area 101. My property's kind of right at the heart of the Emerald Triangle, at the base, right next to Spy Rock Road in Mendocino. And I said, sure, come on up. And I didn't really think it was going to be who it was. It ended up being Jack Herrera and Eddie Lepp and Pebbles Trippett, a mentor and hero, and Roger Christie, who has since been arrested under that same religious defense and taken off in military jets, and Reverend Tom Brown. And there was, I think there was 15, 20 people. And we spent 2 days, and we did form a document that we signed, I'm very proud of, uniting us together as cannabis ministers. That defense hasn't held up very well in court because they're not going to allow that, because then, of course, it would open up the door for what should really happen, which is people should be able to defend themselves under the Religious Freedom Act. But also from that, I became good friends with Pebbles Trippett, who is, like I said, one of my heroes and my mentor. And she was forming a group called the Mendocino Medical Marijuana Advisory Board at that time. And the sheriff's and DA's elections were coming up. And Mendocino is a pro-cannabis county, and we all knew that they couldn't get elected without our vote. So she asked me if I would sponsor the sheriff's debates. And the sheriffs had never come, or nobody had ever come together with the cannabis community and actually spoken freely about all these issues. And we did that, and it was a tremendous success. We had about 300 people, 400 people at my place. We filmed it. There was a runoff, and we got our man elected, which was Tom Allman. We had a second debate at my place. And Tom Allman, who has just recently been featured in Rolling Stone magazine again about the big federal crackdown, sticking up for us all heroically, my hat's off to him, we actually got him elected. And that was a marvelous thing because for the first time our voice was really heard. And the DAs heard about this, the district attorney's candidates, and they liked it so much that they came up and asked to do the debates here, which we did, and there was a runoff, and we did those runoffs too. Although we didn't get our candidate in that time. We were going for Keith Falder, and Mayor Lintott got in, and it was kind of not what we wanted to do. But so that led to us working more closely with the law enforcement and the government officials and John McGowan. And from that, we developed a program called the 9.31 program, which was the first legally sanctioned growing opportunity for people here to grow up to 99 plants in Mendocino. And so my pattern and my point with everybody was we should really work with law enforcement, we should work with the community, with the supervisors in the county, and make this all work and become legal. There were a lot of growers up here that didn't like that because they all felt like it was going to ruin the market and bring everybody down on us, and it did. I've talked to many people about this, and we have been the focus of the Fed crackdown more so than any of the counties around us, Trinity, Humboldt, anybody else. And so that activism and that try that we really went for did backlash on us in some ways, but it did get Tom Allman elected, and it did get that legal program in here. And Pebbles and the MAB group have been working with law enforcement all the way through. And John McGowan's program, the 9.31, for growing 99 plants legal, was going to go through in every county in Northern California before the Fed crackdown. So we were about to take cannabis completely legal on a larger level, working with collectives up here.
So it definitely furthered the conversation and the discussion. It brought people, law enforcement, that don't normally participate in this conversation. Now, we can't necessarily be accountable for their reactions in the crackdown, but you had a lot of support coming out of that, too, it sounds like. So that's progress. That's good stuff.
Well, yeah. And then the other thing that happened was that because we were doing all this, we got sanctioned to be the first solely outdoor collective with growers up here called the Mendocino Farmers Collective, and we opened up at Area 101 to help get outdoor cannabis, medicinal cannabis, to the patients throughout California, which with the federal crackdown coming in, we've actually had to move off there at the risk because of my properties and stuff. But that was the other thing that the county worked on with us, and we were the first one to really go in that direction too. So I'm really proud of all the stuff that's happened and what Pebbles done and everybody else. But as you've seen, it's been pretty much a backlash and a nuclear attack by the feds over the last few months.
Well, thank you so much for all the work that you've done to make this a mainstream issue, though. I mean, the Emerald Cup is definitely one. It's fueled similar competitions everywhere. So that's an interesting and great movement forward. Are you planning on doing the Emerald Cup this coming year? Have you guys made a decision yet?
Yeah, no, we're doing it. We've talked with Kendra Miller, and we're going to do it December 15th. We're not selling any product. It's a friendly competition, so we're not going to walk away from that. In fact, we were talking about doing that this year. We had such an outreach and such a pouring of begging for us to continue on with it because people enjoyed it so much that we decided we'd go ahead and do it. And one thing I'd add about our cup is that there's some of the stories. Every year, we've had 3 or 4 people that come in the top 10 out of all those 100+ entries. The same people in blind tests several years in a row have come in the top 10. And if you met these individuals, they are the most nature-oriented, loving people, sensitive people that are just incredible growers, and they put so much out. And I tell everybody, if you really want to learn how to do it right, go watch these people. One of them carries the water to each of his plants. He won't even put it in pipes.
Oh, really?
He can't carry it while he tells the plants he loves them.
Oh, that's love.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We look forward to possibly going to the Emerald Cup one of these days, right, Russ? Very soon. Thank you so much. You're listening to A Different View. We'll be right back.
That's my baby's name.
Have you considered medical marijuana? Double-blind, peer-reviewed studies have found cannabinoid therapies to be successful in treating the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, brain cancers, chronic pain, diabetes mellitus, dystonia, fibromyalgia, GI disorders, hepatitis C, HIV/AIDS, hypertension, incontinence, MRSA, multiple sclerosis, osteoporosis, pruritus, rheumatoid arthritis, sleep apnea, and Tourette's syndrome, as well as anecdotal evidence suggesting relief from anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress, plus reduction in the need for narcotic painkillers. Side effects of medical marijuana can include euphoria, relaxation, anxiety, panic reactions, paranoia, tachycardia, dry eyes, dry mouth, concentration and reaction time impairment, appetite increase, and in 37 states, arrest and incarceration. But medical marijuana is non-toxic and cannot cause overdose. Medical marijuana. It's not for everyone, but ask your doctor if medical marijuana may be right for you.
Catch Normal News with Cannabis Carry every weekday on Normal Show Live at 7 p.m. Eastern, here on the Normal Network.
I want to tell y'all a little bit about a plant I know that can save the world. It grows long and tall and has flowers that can make your mind swirl. It's a funky plant with a fiber that is resistant to rain and mold. It's the strongest plant fiber known to man, the best rope you'll ever hold. Well, the pioneers covered up the wagon trains with a canvas made of hemp. And Washington and Jefferson grew it on their farms and said to make the most of it. First stars and stripes were sewn on hemp, first Constitution too. This is around the world for food, fiber, oil, medicine, and fuel. And if we press the seeds, we won't have no need for any other oil. We can make paints and inks, or run our car, we'll go back next season. It'll fix the soil, the most nutritious seed we can put in our mouth with omega-6 and 3. We can feed the world with the tree of life and live sustainably. But if we cut down all the trees, we won't have nowhere to breathe. We'll grow fields of hemp instead. We can make our paper, build a house from it. It's the God's plant growing wild and free, living the way that we ought to be. Gonna leave my children a better world than my ancestors left me. Whoa, whoa. La 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 la. Whoa, whoa.
Marijuana plant, they often call it dope, can also be made into oil or rope. Some people say you smoke it and you feel fantastic, but from hemp you can make an alternative to plastic. Made from plants, not petroleum, you see, so it won't still be around in 4003. It can biodegrade, which means there'll be less pollution. Just another reason for a hemp revolution.
helps cancer and AIDS patients eat their food, helps those with depression overcome the blues. Glaucoma, epilepsy, nausea, insomnia, stress, cirrhosis, psychosis, pain, PMS. All the studies have been done and all the doctors agree, but they can't make money off this plant, you see, because it's free. It grows from a seed, wild and free like we ought to be. You know the future is grown in our own backyards. If we cut down all the trees, we won't have nowhere to be. We'll grow fields of hemp instead. We can make our paper, build a house from it. It's the God's plan, going wild and free, living the way that we ought to be. Gonna leave my children a better world than my ancestors left me. Whoa, whoa. La 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 la.
Welcome back. You're listening to A Different View. This is the Blunt Wrap, where I want to talk each week about just, the straight talk, just none of the BS behind it, being wide open. And one of the things that I learned this week, which I wish I would have learned sooner because I would have had my name actually put on the ballot, is that there is a position in politics if you're registered as a party. And I'm registered Republican. I know a lot of people in our community have registered Democrat recently in order to defeat Holton in the Attorney General race. But if you are a member of either the Democrat or the Republican Party, there is an elected position that's very easy to obtain. Most of them are vacant currently. There's nobody in them. It's called a precinct committee person. Right. And what this person is there's a male and a female for each party, both Republican and Democrat, that are in each precinct. And in Oregon, there's when you get your ballot mailed to you, there's a string of numbers.
We should point out that I think only Oregon gets their ballot mailed to them.
Right. So in Oregon, you get your ballot mailed, and there's a string of numbers.
It's going to be tougher for everyone else.
And I think you can call your elections office and ask them. But so in Oregon, you can find out right here, and I found out that I'm in precinct 382. And I looked on my ballot inside where it lists all the precinct, and there's no candidates filed for this precinct. Yeah. None at all. So I want my friends to write me in for this. And what I've learned about this position is that this is, for one, your door into your party, where you shape the party platform, where you affect the local party itself, and also where you have the opportunity to be a part of the national conventions for these parties. And I know probably a lot of cannabis activists are like, why are you Republican? And it's the Ron Paul thing. But aside from that, I made a phone call this last week to the Oregon Republican Party, and I told them that there is this belief throughout cannabis activists that Democrats are in favor of marijuana reform and Republicans are opposed. And he told me, no, I'd beg to differ with that, that there's a wide variety of Republicans that are very supportive of this concept. And he agreed with me that it's just not talked about enough. So I want to be a member of this party to talk about, so that I can go in there and talk to them about this and open up this conversation.
I think Sarah and myself and Russ have a different, unique perspective on Republicans. We come from Idaho. Okay?
I come from Indiana. It's not that far.
Right.
All of the I states, as a matter of fact.
Yes, exactly.
But the thing that, most of the Republicans that I know, they're about personal freedoms. Mm-hmm. Government out of my house, leave me alone, my body, my privacy, right. That sort of thing. And that is where Republicans are all about, legalizing marijuana, because they do see this. If you can make that argument with those that don't know or aren't involved, if you can make that argument with Republicans, then they're going to go, oh, yeah, because that's a fundamental belief.
Right.
Of a lot of
just the personal freedom argument in general. That government it's a small government argument. Government has no business being in our lives, telling us what to do.
It's all about that patient-physician relationship. And
even more than that, though, they have that, like, what I do in my home is what I do in my home. You cross the threshold uninvited, I'll shoot you. I mean, that's an Idaho mentality. Yes. That really is. And that's the Republicans that I know of. I know a lot of Republicans that are absolutely in favor of legalizing, but they don't agree with most of the other progressive beliefs that maybe the Democratic Party or the progressive parties do.
Well,
but that one they absolutely
and I think that it's important that people get involved. And like I said, precinct committee person, I mean, this is nationwide. This isn't just an Oregon thing. Even though the ballot's being mailed to us and so easy to find out it is an Oregon thing, you can be a precinct committee person no matter which state you're in. And maybe you don't like that the Republican parties are so pro-life, or maybe you don't like that they're so, this, that, or the other, or the Democratic Party as well. This is your chance to shape that talk.
Like you said earlier, this is getting on the groundwork with having, and it's a small position maybe, but it has a huge impact. And like you said, it does shape the argument of their politics. And isn't that where real, reform starts, is at the base? We start there. You start small and you start making a big impact. I mean, just think about if all those positions were held by a stoner.
Well, and this is the irony of these positions. I mean, literally, you can be elected with only 3 to 10 votes, especially as a write-in. But even if you had your name on the ballot, it only takes a couple of signatures from your friends. I think it's like 10 here in Oregon.
Well,
it's a very small
on the
number.
Ballot, do you even need to have? I mean, don't you win unopposed?
No, people could write in somebody else to oppose you. So you still need those votes. But I mean, like I'm going to do it as a write-in, and if I can find any other Republicans in my county, I'm going to have them write me in. But I mean, you can seriously win this with just a handful of people. Just the 5 buddies that you know. I mean, you can win this.
Campaign you'll ever run.
Right. And maybe you don't have a career in politics. Maybe you don't want to be president or, something. But this is, like I said, this is your chance to have a say in the groundwork and the foundation of what this party is doing, whether Democrat or Republican, and changing the dialogue all the way up the stream to these big debates where we're constantly being ignored, like we were talking about earlier with Obama. If we're changing it at the ground floor.
Well, and
a quick interlude. I just read a blurb about the Washington County, Texas Democrats pushing a legalization plank for the Texas Democratic Party. Don't know that it went anywhere, but that's what you're talking about. Very low-level, county-level politics moving up to the chain.
Right. And it is a powerful position to be in. So if you're in Washington County, Oregon, which we probably don't have a lot of listeners in Washington County, but I'm in 382. So vote for me on the Republican ticket. But if you're not in this county, or if you're a Democrat or whatever, have your friends write you in. It's not a big commitment for the year. You go to quarterly meetings as much as you can. So even then, you don't have to be at necessarily every meeting, but as much as you can. The more you're there, the more you can participate, obviously.
Right. And who knows if the bug doesn't bite you and you don't want to do more.
And we need to be taking over the political discussion. I mean, we're doing a great job in the media, but now let's do it in the legislature.
Well, we need to get into positions that have an impact. Gary Johnson is one that's, a cannabis consumer. He was, but he got into the movement and became a quasi-activist for cannabis because of his use.
And speaking of Gary Johnson, there was a media release today that he has chosen Judge Jim Gray as his vice president moving forward in the campaign. Judge Jim Gray being from Seattle and very supportive of one of the higher ups in LEAP and well known for being in support of changing these laws. So that would be a terrific vice president.
That would be a nice couple.
That's come out just today. That's making me rethink my Ron Paul vote. Let me tell you, Gary Johnson's got a good guy running by his side now, so that's awesome.
Well, I think if there's any encouragement that we can give anybody who's trying to figure out where they need to place their energy for activism, this is an easy place to go. It has a huge impact, and we should be having that conversation in those circles. We should be, not just talking to the people we know that are in agreement with us in our own little community. We need to get out there and have that conversation with people who've never heard that conversation before.
Especially with people that have never heard that conversation before. Quit looking for the safe people to talk to. Don't just talk to the person that you're passing the joint
Practice
to.
on the safe people, then go out and get those people.
Then talk to everybody, your pastor, your doctor, your local cop, your politicians, everybody.
I think when I first started going around with you, Jennifer, you're not afraid to talk to the cops. And at first it's a little bit unnerving, but when you do it, it's like, oh wait, they're not bad people, and they all have opinions too, and some of those opinions are very supportive.
Well, and the ones that are enlightening.
Right. Well, we're about done. You've been listening to A Different View. I'm Iva Cunningham, Jennifer Alexander, and Sarah Frank. We'll be back with you next Monday at 8 o'clock. You can catch our replays on Tuesday at 2 a.m., Friday at 8 a.m., Wednesday at 2 p.m., and Saturday at 4 p.m. You're listening to A Different View. Thanks for joining us.
In the city of trees, she takes him up to the depot where they eat cheese and drink wine, and after dark they let
all night and waste their time. Their time in the city of trees. In the city of trees.
You're listening to the Normal Network.
Weedmaps.com